Oh my God, we are live on the air. I like that. Like it's almost professional. Let me introduce myself for those who don't know, which I don't know why you'd be watching this if you didn't know who I was. Hi, I'm Louis Porter Jr., and you're watching Transparency Agenda Daily. And this is our special Friday night event. And today we have, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Thurston Hillman. I am the Starfinder Society developer for Paizo.
Okay, all right. Now that's good. So you've got a good, solid job. People want to know because a developer, what do you really do? What's your actual you do every day?
Well, eventually, what I'll be kind of rolling into is handling scenarios as they come in from freelancers and sort of working on those scenarios, taking out any bugs or continuity issues in them, and making them fit into the organized play campaign that we're building, and sort of just taking the text that freelancers write, making sure everything works before we pass it on to editing and layout, and making sure it'll fit in our campaign.
Okay.
Right now, however, that's not the case, and I'm more building the campaign, which is involving a lot of work with like the organized play guide and building all of that backstory that's going to go into this campaign to keep us going, and so that I'll know what I'm doing when I'm doing my actual job. Kind of a weird situation.
That's kind of important to know when your job actually starts. That's just like, all right. Let's hear some important questions. You are not American.
Correct.
You are the foreigner from the north.
Correct.
Okay, so were you born and raised Canadian, or you just like snuck over the border?
No, I born raised in Winnipeg, which is where I am, nice and cold center of North America.
Like, how cold is it now? I mean, I'm guessing it's
actually, right now it's utterly ridiculous and hot because we're supposed to have a thunderstorm. So it is. Of course, I have to find out what your temperature is. It's like 31 Celsius. So in Fahrenheit, that is 87, 89. Yeah.
Whew, good enough. Thank God for basic math. It might help me.
Oh. Yeah, no. Normally it's much colder, and during the winter we are in like minus 50 Celsius. So
yeah. Oh, I know that.
Extremes.
Justin Slaughter said he's American, but not American. You're not American. I guess it's a very big difference.
Oh yes.
It's very slim. It's very slim. All right, let's do the fun stuff. All right, so let's talk about how you got started. How you got started in gaming? What was the first game you started with? What got you hooked?
Oh gosh. Well, the first bit of gaming I ever did was in a basement at the local game store. I got into BattleTech, and like that was my game of choice. I met friends who were into that sort of stuff, and I got into BattleTech, and then that sort of spiraled off into 40K, and then we were at the game store anyways, and there was this cool Dungeons and Dragons thing, and
so you went the metal crack way to come back to the paper way.
I'm still well in the metal crack, trust me.
Look, if you've got a problem, you can get help. I know there are people who've gotten help. I got off the 40K wagon. It was tough, but it worked out. It did work out eventually.
Back and forth addict, that's for sure.
Oh, and now they got a new edition coming out. It's like just sell the crack to the kids.
I just spent a couple $100 on my order for that, so
congratulations.
Yeah.
You are it.
Well, my girlfriend and I, we live in a house together, and we both agreed we're not having kids. So that's kind of the replacement is, we don't have to build a college fund. She gets to do her art stuff. I get my 40K addiction. It kind of works out.
Oh, that's a good plan. I decided to go with a child, and I realized, oh my goodness, what was I thinking?
Hey, I hear they work out sometimes. So
yeah, this one better. I'm telling you, at 7, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to the teen years. Oh, good Lord. All right, so you got into D&D, and of course, I'm sure you're involved with 3.0 and 3.5.
Yeah, I started just at the tail end of 2nd edition. Picked up the monster manual, the DM guide, the player's handbook. Then I got really into Ravenloft because that was like my jam in 2nd edition. And then they came out with 3rd edition, and I was like, I will never change editions. I will stay with 2nd edition until the end. That was a mistake. That didn't last long either. And yeah, then we switched to 3rd and then 3.5,
and now you're at Pathfinder.
Yeah, that was an interesting transition. We did one last big kick at the cat for 3.5, and then kind of jumped into Pathfinder on one of Paizo's adventure paths, actually. So
they got you hooked. You saw an adventure path. You're like, "Ooh, what's this?" You got hooked.
Yeah.
And all right, so then how did the writing bug hit you?
So we went to a convention down in the Fargo area. They had an adventure path for sale. I picked it up. I think it was Second Darkness was where I started. So it was pretty early. I mean, like third adventure path for Paizo. And then I started reading through that, running it, and I was like researching everything Paizo related and like give me all the subscriptions. And I just moved out of my parents' place, had an okay job, so it's like, oh, I'll spend all the money. And then I saw on their website one day they had an open call for this Pathfinder Society thing, and I thought, well, I like writing games, so let's give that a shot. And I kind of threw out an open call to that, which
Your first open call you tossed out. What was it? Let's hear the pitch.
It actually was what would become the Infernal Vault, but this was back in the days of Josh Frost was in charge of the org play campaign back then, and I sent in my pitch, and it was like the players go into this like vault under the city, and they enter this like vault that has demon or devil stuff going on, and then there's a rust monster, and like just whatever. And Josh comes back to me, and bless him, he sends me this lovely email. Like, he took the time to give me feedback and is like, first of all, never use a rust monster in organized play, or every player will hate you because you burn all their stuff forever. Which, okay, fair feedback. But he gave me a lot of other pointers, and then kind of ended it with, I'm not going to take this pitch, but you've proven that you know how to put words together, which is more than I can say for a lot of people who've sent me pitches. So make these changes and send it back to me, and we'll see where it goes. Now, 8 years removed from that, I can now say that is such an important thing in this industry, is being able to not think of your idea and your writing is the most precious thing in the universe that can never be changed. And that's probably the reason that when I resubmitted it and then didn't hear from Josh for, about 5 or 6 months, and thought, well, my second pitch sure must have sucked. Then he came back to me out of the blue and was like, yeah, I'll take it. Here's a contract. Please write it. That's where it started.
So you went with the traditional route of, hey, I'm going to be smart and do what they tell me to do, and actually give them what they want, and I should do well. That's
crazy. So yeah, I did that, and kind of sent that off, one and done. Thought it was cool. I again had no idea what organized play was at that point. I saw these like sub tiers and chronicle. I had no idea. I submitted the scenario and had no idea what all that stuff was. Just that, okay, like players can play this at multiple levels. That's pretty cool, I guess. And sent that off. And yeah, then it was sort of nothing for about a year-ish. Until I got an email from Mark Moreland, who had just sort of taken over the campaign, or was in the process of, and he asked me to write a scenario. And this was a bit different. This was, I know exactly what I want you to write. Write this for me. So that was sort of the second part of where I went, and that was an interesting year because I wrote that. And just after I finished writing it, but a couple months before it was released, I ended up going to Gen Con that year. That was my first Gen Con. So
that was like what, 2008-ish, 9-ish?
Oh gosh. Years elude me. It wouldn't be that long ago. It probably. Years are bad for me, but it would have been the launch of season 3, so whatever that was.
So, wow, that's only like 2012. So you were like really so you've gone from, I'd say it like this, from a wanted writer lost in your back room saying my adventures are fantastic to, yes, I work at Paizo, and yes, I look fabulous.
Well, I mean, there was a bit more than that. I mean, that was the first year I went to Gen Con, and that was I knew nobody. This was I actually get this whole organized play thing because I'm seeing these tables, and I showed up out of the blue because I was working in aviation at the time in IT, and I ended up getting free comp back home for a couple of days while I was on a client site, and I said, "Don't send me back home. Send me to Indy. I'm gonna go do some stuff in Indy for this week." And yeah, so I went there, ran GM some stuff. That was where I really met most of the Paizo staff. Started off, meeting like Mark Moreland, Liz Courts when she was there. They were people who kind of showed me around, told me what was what. I ended up with this crazy Yahoo named Tim Hitchcock, who
he's definitely a Yahoo.
Yeah. Never, ever start your Gen Con experiences hanging out with Tim. Oh, there are some dark memories there, but Tim's awesome. Tim's awesome. And yeah, just like meeting people, and that was a huge step. And yeah, so my scenario hadn't even been released yet. We're still kind of excited about that. And then 2 months later, because this was when Gen Con was a bit earlier in the year, I ended up having a similar work thing happen where I ended up going out to PAX Prime in Seattle.
Okay.
And that was where I ended up meeting like Eric Mona, like more people. That was Weeby Goblins, I think, had just been released.
Okay.
So we were running some longer tables of that, and I ended up running it. And Eric kind of came up behind my table and watched me silently, as he does sometimes, and then came up to me after, said I did a great job GMing. We talked, found out we had a mutual love of comics, and we've been friends ever since.
I didn't know you were a comic book fiend. See, there you go. There you go.
Oh yeah. I mean, controlled doses. I'm not too crazy, but I know what I like. But yeah, so Eric and I were friends ever since, and then that kind of spiraled into some other stuff, which involved me writing some sort of special events for PaizoCon that year. I did the Grand Convocation, which was kind of like a one and done special event that they never released, but was the sort of big draw for PaizoCon that year.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you've met everybody. You're still around. You're becoming the hot new guy. Did you do a lot of work? I know you did some work for third-party publishers. Yeah. Did you decide, like, you said, "Oh, forget that, I'm gonna go straight to Paizo," or did you say some independent stuff? Or
I did a bit. I ended up working a lot with EN World and EN Publishing. They did about that time was when they were starting work on Zeitgeist, their big adventure path that they released.
Okay.
So I wrote a bunch of adventures for that. I think I ended up writing 3 or 4 of the adventures in that series. So that was sort of what I was filling my side time with. I didn't really do a lot of the like smaller third-party products at that point, just because it was either I was writing like PFS scenarios, or I was writing or I was writing for Zeitgeist at the time. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you're doing all this fun stuff. It looks like you're doing some bestiary stuff. I'm looking in your history. 2014, you become a monster guy, because that's like a big part.
Well, that was actually the big part that kind of kicked it off, because I got a small gig in Inner Sea Combat, which was Mark Moreland had kind of taken that over, and Mark knew me from PFS, so he brought me on board to do some magic items, and I proved competent at that. Surprise. So then Daigle brought me on to do monsters. And,
Adam Daigle, huh?
Yep. And I'd been friends with Daigle from before he got hired. Like, him and I had met once or twice before, and then after he got hired, we kept in contact, and good drinking buddy at conventions. So that's really he got me some monsters.
It's about the BarCon scene, because a lot of people don't know this, and I didn't learn this because a lot of people don't know I'm an introvert. Even though I do the show, I'm an introvert, and I don't drink a lot. So it's like, So if I go to the bar, it's more like, let's hear stories, and that's where the good meals. That's where the good stuff happens.
Absolutely. In fact, that. In a lot of ways, I really stress that to people who want to be freelancers. It sucks that it's like, oh, you have to come out to PaizoCon or you have to come out to Gen Con, and there's no restriction that says you have to come to a convention you have to come to a convention to get work with Paizo. That's not the case. But what inevitably happens in the product schedule is something slips, and someone maybe misses a deadline, can't produce, and you as the developer are stuck in that weird situation of, I need someone who can do this product on a real short turnaround time. And when you're going through that mental checklist of people, your top priority at that point is someone who won't mess me over. They won't fail to deliver a second time. And you tend to gravitate to the people you see at conventions because if they're going to be at PaizoCon or Gen Con, you're going to see them there, and you can guilt them in person if they screw you over. So
that's a good plan. All right, I respect that. A little guilty in person, but okay, that's feasible. All right, yeah, I had that kind of weird thing happen. All right, so I respect that. I do respect that. All right.
Yeah.
All right, then you continued on. Now you're okay. Now you understand organized play. You see, even better. You've seen organized play. You like it. You see how it runs. What would be the one thing you'd change about organized play if you could?
The one thing I would change about organized play. There's a tricky question. So one thing that is it's a really tough question. Just because I now being on the other side of the equation, I think I would have changed that, and then I go, oh, but the logistics of that are such a pain. I think in an ideal org play environment, I would like to see more player controlled interaction. I would like to see more. Not only are the player masses controlling where the storyline is going, but there can be some recognition of individual players who have maybe accomplished something really important. And I think, to his credit, John Compton and Linda Zayas-Palmer, the two people that I work with as developers for Organized Play, they're doing a great job of that for Pathfinder Society now. Since John stepped on board, he's really moved the campaign in that direction. And so that's one thing I would love to see more of. And really, if we can change it to be more player driven and what the campaign's about and what big important NPCs do we have, that I think is what I'd really like to see.
So comparing it to, I'll say for Living Forgotten Realms, it's how that was very much kill monster, get treasure, and move on, and just repeat, rinse and repeat. It seems like you guys want to do more of the, okay, I played this adventure, and what I've done in this adventure affects other things in the future that I don't know about yet.
Yeah.
And can send it a certain way, but we kind of, like any smart guys, you plan, you can go this way or this way. If you see it going this way, okay, we'll write stuff more like this, or vice versa.
Yeah. And I think with like Pathfinder Society, PFS is doing incredible things in that direction. Ever since they introduced the reporting conditions that they've added into scenarios, people can report on you met this NPC. Did you help them or hinder them? Checkbox A if you helped them. Checkbox B if you didn't. And then later on down the line, a couple scenarios, you can really find out what the majority of people did when that person comes back and maybe doesn't like the Pathfinder Society or maybe really likes the Pathfinder Society. And I think a lot of that is what this season of Pathfinder Society is going to be about too. They've kind of talked about Season of Factions Favor that was announced at PaizoCon. That's going to be a lot of your choices matter and what players have been doing for the past 9 years of PFS is really gonna come together.
Okay, that's very cool. And I've talked to a lot of guys who've done the other guys who run even the third party guys. Is it really true that people will play through if you gave them 5 adventures to play, they'd play all 5 in a weekend at a con if they could?
Easily.
Is it an addiction? Is it actually like crack? I mean, because I don't get it. I get playing adventures, yeah, but it's organized play is very much I must get my fix or else.
Yeah. I've heard people tell me that they are running my scenario within hours of it dropping. The GM spends a couple hours prepping and they're running it that night. It's always a weird point of I'll see something with my name get dropped and I might have given some hints on some wacky thing I've done. Players get excited and then the next day I have feedback on it. I'll have a private message on the Paizo site or an email or a Facebook message saying, "Oh, you're a real jerk, Hillman. I don't like what you did." Blah 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 blah. Yeah, people consume that material.
I've never quite understood I get why. Look, I love playing. Playing is fun. I get that. But OP players are rabid fans. You could do, if you put out 50 adventures a year, they play all 50.
Oh yeah. And I mean, there's sort of a balance to that, in that yes, there are some people who will do that, but that is not the majority of players. So we deal with it a lot on forums where people say, "Oh, we want 8 scenarios a month," and it's like, well,
Yeah.
there are some logistics involved with that. And I mean, yeah, being on the other side of the fence now, I definitely see a lot more of those logistics and kind of have way more respect for what John and Linda were doing from before I started doing this.
You didn't know they were juggling fireballs in each hand?
Well, I mean, I had a pretty good idea. John and I, about 2 years ago, like really got close in terms of just talking about the campaign, and we've been messaging each other. Well, for the last year before I was even hired, we'd message each other almost daily just about stuff, because you need sounding boards, and in any job you need a sounding board, someone outside of your kind of like silo to go, I'm thinking of doing this. Is this a terrible idea? Yay, nay. And him and I had that because I would do that for him with freelance work. He would do that with me with some PFS stuff. So I think I had an idea. I just didn't realize how much of that it would be, especially with a new campaign. Couldn't be that hard, right?
Well, I mean, how difficult could it be?
Yeah.
All right, let's get this with the thing that everybody's been waiting to hear. I mean, look, all they want to talk about is Starfinder. Okay, not kidding anybody. They want to know. Okay, so let's go with what can you tell us about Starfinder and Starfinder Society? Because that's all they care about. That's what these people have come for. They've come for that. They didn't come to see me. They don't care about it.
Well, Starfinder will be released to Gen Con, so you'll get all of the lovely rules and stuff there. Starfinder Society.
Will it be awesome?
Easily, yes. Oh, man. I've been going through the rules. I've been poring over them for about the past 2.5, 3 months now, putting things together, and the stuff I'm finding is just great.
So let's ask the important questions. Can you play Star Wars?
Oh, yeah.
Can you play Star Trek? Can you play Babylon 5 was my personal favorite.
I sure hope so, because that's the type of game I'd like to run.
Okay. Battlestar Galactica?
And I think a lot of this is really going to like key in on how your GM wants to run their games. I think the game is science fantasy, so can you run the kind of hardcore Battlestar Galactica, no magic in space sort of thing, Star Trek in a similar vein? Yes, you can, and that much like how you can run similar like hard fantasy if you take out like clerics and the magic on paladins, you can do that. The same thing is going to be true with Starfinder. There's a lot more magic built into the system because it is more science fantasy.
All right, well then here's Warren Ellis. Are you familiar with Warren Ellis?
Mm-hmm.
If Warren Ellis would he play in something like this? Would he create something like, yeah, I can build this world. I got enough stuff to build a cool world in here.
Oh yeah, I think that this is also going to give third-party publishers just a ton of options on where they can go. Yeah. You like that, right? I think third parties are going to be able to look at this and go, wow, there's a lot we can do. But also, they're going to look at it and one thing that's way different and kind of touching on the org play side, but also touching on third parties because it's kind of an interesting niche. We're in a situation where when we're doing our org play stuff, and I'm sure third parties are going to be in a similar boat, it's not like a planet. It's not like, oh, here are the nations, here's everything sort of, this is your sandbox, and sorry, because of setting material, copyright, all that, you third parties can't play in our sandbox. In this case, if you as a third party or us as a campaign want to create a whole section of space, as long as you're still adhering to the OGL, you're not using, named gods, that sort of stuff, you can create a whole section of space that players could then go into in their home games. Or in our case, we can create a whole new section of space that is very focused on what we want to accomplish with the organized play campaign. And I think that's going to be really cool for people. And I think for the GMing perspective, if you like what like the Starfinder core setting, the packed worlds that they've talked about, if you like that, which I mean, they're great. And if you like Galarian solar system, there's a lot there. Then you're going to have fun with that. But if you're someone you're a GM who wants to create your own crazy setting, Pick a solar system. Pick a part of the galaxy. Pick a whole new galaxy.
Okay. I mean, you know, as a third-party guy, I find that important. But for me, okay, actually, here's a question out there. Important question. Is climb a skill in Starfinder?
Since we have had the character sheets kind of demoed at PaizoCon, I will say that no, climb is not a skill.
Okay.
You heard it here first, maybe? Not really, but...
Okay, that's important. Look, that's your question answered. Don't be complaining if you didn't like the answer. That's all I'm saying. All right. Now, for guys like me, because look, I'm not going to lie. I already know what I'm going to do for my third-party publisher. But I've heard rumors, and I want to see if I can confirm it with you. Is there going to be mecha in the game?
I will not answer that on the grounds that it may incriminate me one way or another.
Okay.
I think there will be. I think people will be very satisfied with the with the armors available.
Well, then let me jump down from that one. Will there be power armor, aka Iron Man type of power armor?
I think people will be really satisfied with the armor chapter in this game.
Scott Fernandez, apparently some guy who thinks he's important. Rules for microgravity combat.
It sure would be weird if this game didn't have gravity stuff. I'll say that.
See, vague and almost maybe lying, truthful, maybe possible. I like that. I respect that. Okay.
I would say that environments in space, and I totally was not involved with writing the environment chapter. Oh wait, I was. But there's probably some stuff there.
All right. Can I play Voltron in Starfinder? Because that's important to me. I mean, let's not kid anybody.
I think a canny GM could make that work.
Okay. Okay, this is Scott Fernandez. Geez, Scott, really, you sound like oh my God, Scott, you're driving me crazy. He said cyberspace, question mark?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat that? You kind of cut there.
Cyberspace, question mark.
There's a whole almost class that kind of, actually several classes that sort of fit into that hacking style role. So, hey. I think you're gonna see that, and you're gonna once again see good room for expansion in the future. I think much like when Pathfinder came out with a core rulebook, how many extra books do we have on that right now? There's a lot of room.
Yeah.
Don't look at that bookshelf. That's a dangerous time.
Yeah, good lord. Okay, Jeff Lee, the greatest writer I know. Only vehicle versions of Voltron. What's that? What are you trying to say? I can't have any lions. I can't do any lions.
Oh, you don't want a spaceship version? Oh.
Well, I want to do the lions, of course, because the spaceship ones. I was like, whatever. I mean, I'd like some lions. Aren't the lions technically spaceships? I mean, they do fly in space. Don't they qualify as spaceships?
I mean, if such a thing exists in the game, maybe.
If I like that vagueness, that's good.
If.
Can you tell us about the Alien Archive? Will there be space alpacas? That's a great one. I like that.
Space alpacas in the Alien Archive. Oh man, I'd love that. Actually, I can honestly say I haven't done much work on the Alien Archive. It was one of the odd hardcovers that I have missed working on lately, just because I was on other projects at the time. I've got a list of the playable races in the Alien Archive, and sadly, I do not remember seeing space alpacas as a playable race in there.
It could have happened.
But there's still a whole lot of other races in that book.
Look, that's his third party all right there, okay? As a guy who did a book on dogs, let me tell you, that's got third party written.
That's fair. That's fair.
Voltron is space kaiju. Okay, I believe that. Yeah, okay. Ravagug is a space unicorn analog. Maybe that's a maybe.
I mean, Ravagug is, yeah. Ravagug is. I don't know if he's still around in Starfinder. He might not be.
Of course, and this one had to be asked. Xenomorph-esque monsters. I mean, come on. Acid blood has never been cooler. Let's not kid anybody.
when we were doing pitches for like society scenarios, I think the alien bug hunt scenario was pretty much our staple example of like, this is a scenario that fans will kill us if we don't do it. So
There you go.
there'll be something, I'm sure.
Oh, Unicron, not unicorn. Oh, I like
Oh,
unicorn. I like unicorn. Sounds even better.
might be a weird unicorn though.
Broke the planet when he escaped. What do you mean broke the planet? He might have like dented a little. Broke is that's such a vague term. That's
Well, we don't know what happened to Galarian, and I don't think we ever will.
you know. See, you guys, okay, Thomas and Scott, you guys are looking at it the wrong way. Look, we're gonna do fun stuff with it. Let's just be honest. We're gonna take this Starfinder. We're gonna do some awesome stuff. I might do Voltron. I'm not gonna lie, I probably will. And we're gonna have a great time. And if I can, I'm gonna do some. Oh yeah, I'm gonna steal some. And if they haven't made them yet, which I'm still because Owen Casey Stevens, I know was involved with this. And
yes, heavily involved.
And I know Owen probably stole an idea I did years ago that I stole from Star Trek, and that's self-replicating minds, which is still one of the greatest ideas ever. I was like, that's genius. I need some of that. So will we see some of that stuff? Will we see crazy things like that we know of from Star Trek, Star Wars, in the books as tech?
Yeah. Just some of the starship components, some of the starship weaponry, armor, weapons, all of that stuff. You're gonna recognize a lot. A lot of sci-fi tropes have a home here.
Okay. Somebody else bringing up
and some weird stuff beyond.
Because I'm curious. Because if I'm playing Babylon 5, I got to know. Is there organic technology on stuff as ships? I assume there is.
There are space druids. Let's put it that way. Not a class, but there are certainly space druids, and they've been talked about in some other media. I think James Sutter announced some of the factions like that, and yeah. I'm not sure if all that sort of wacky stuff is necessarily going to be in the core rule book, but
you got plans. You got a long time. You got a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
Oh my god! Everybody, so undead ships. Of course, there's going to be undead ships.
Oh yeah, Scott, that one I can say.
Come on, did you really think there were actually undead ships? Come on.
Yeah.
Of course there. Scott. Scott, you're killing me over here. I'm just saying. I know you and I respect you, but I need more awesomeness out of you. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the stuff we shouldn't be talking about. Okay, organized play.
All right.
Will there be player versus player? No player versus player? No.
No player versus player. Just from a lot of perspectives, that just causes a lot of problems at the table, especially when it's not non-consensual stuff. I think you're going to see a lot of what we've had already, which is you can target me and your grenade if I'm okay with it, but if I'm not okay with it, you can't take that action. But and that's just more to deal with any problems, because otherwise there's problem. Players get angry at each other. Tanya gets an email. Tanya, that's, and God bless her for handling that side of the org play side that we have. So,
all right. Well, and then let me ask some more important questions. How many adventurers for the first year? Do you know yet, or can you not tell us yet?
So what we've announced is that there will be 5 releases at Gen Con, which are going to include 3 scenarios, one of which is a repeatable. So the 01-01, the commencement is sort of our repeatable, like you can play it once with every character you have. That's kind of our intro scenario. People have kind of called them evergreens in the past in PFS. So we're going to have that. We're going to have 2 sort of run-of-the-mill tier 1 to 4 scenarios that are coming out. We're also going to have a quest pack, which is basically 5 quests that show off the rule system. So you're going to have 3 quests that are like ground based, show you a lot of the like combat skills side of the game, and then 2 that are starship combat based. And then the final one is our pre-gen special, which is going to be a 4th level pre-gen special, which we aren't going to do an interactive to start, and that's just because players aren't going to have their characters ready. They aren't going to know what they want to do. So we're going to start with a pre-gen special that sort of acts like a prologue to the season. And then after that, what we've announced is we're aiming to do 1 scenario a month. 1 a month. But I mean,
What if I become addicted? What if I need the fix? What will I
You
do?
know, and we're going to be looking real close at the reporting numbers and how many games people are getting in,
Oh,
because that lets us know, do we need more? And I think Paizo as a company has been really smart on their approach to this. They didn't want to flood their customers with all of this new stuff. They're starting with a reasonable release, I think.
all right, let me see. Scott Fernandez again. I want to run Killjoy / Dark Matter style game. Very Shadowrun.
Yeah, I could see that sort of game working really well. You've got like the operative class, the Technomancer class. Those are going to fit in really well with that, especially if you set it on some of the packed worlds, which all of the sort of Galarian solar system planets exist, minus Galarian in Starfinder.
Ice Climber wants to know: does the commencements have space minotaurs?
Not off the top of my head. I do know that there might be some space minotaurs poking in the future. Maybe I know Owen certainly has a love for minotaurs and likes sneaking them in wherever he can. So I would not be surprised if something like that came across my desk in the immediate future, immediate past. Who knows?
All right, so now you've got these adventures coming out. Who can write? I mean, can anyone picture anything yet? Are you guys like, sorry, we're only guys we know?
So to start, that was definitely the case. We understand that Gen Con this year is a really big deal, being a launch. It also comes down to people didn't have the rules, so it was a bit of jumping through hoops to get some of these starting freelancers the rules, just because for obvious reasons the company's really tight on who's getting these. So to start off, we've been contracting a lot of freelancers who've sort of been established, and again, for Gen Con it made a lot of sense. We know that a lot of the people who are going to be at Gen Con, which is our launch, those are going to be people who've been playing PFS for years, and that's already been proven just with the release for Gen Con that we've seen. So the authors we got for that are all pretty much PFS like namesakes. Like people know these authors. We've got on the pre-gen special, we've got Larry Wilhelm, who's written a whole bunch of stuff for both Pathfinder Society and the AP line now. Similarly, we've got Jim Groves, who's doing 01-02. Fugitive on the Red Planet is the name of that scenario. And he's written a ton of APs. He's written for Pathfinder Society, so he's another sort of staple name that we know will give us good results. Ron Lundeen, who you've also probably seen his name on a bunch of APs and a bunch of PFS stuff. He's doing the quest pack. 01-01, the commencement, the Evergreen, that's being written by Eleanor Farron, who's been very much an up-and-comer in terms of like the PFS side. She's done work on Planes of Power, which was the campaign setting book that went into the elemental planes. She did the Plane of Water. I worked on that book. I did the Plane of Earth, and I read her stuff once I got the book in my hand. And yeah, she was certainly a person we wanted to bring on. She has great NPC design choices. I just got her turnover about a week ago. She's introducing our faction leaders for the game and has just done a perfect job. And then the last scenario, 01-03, is written by one of the Starfinder Society team, Jason Keeley.
Okay.
So we started off really like internally heavy. We have our author pool lined up right now until about January, just because I like making future Thirsty's life a lot easier without rushing to get authors and stuff. But I think the goal that we have in mind once Starfinder is really established is what I would like to see is sort of switching between some established people in the industry, especially on the PFS side, moving them over to try a Starfinder Society scenario, but also sort of interspersed in there maybe every other month, however we figure it. I'd like to bring in new people. And a lot of what I did at PaizoCon was talking to people, kind of getting interest. We don't have an open call up right now for it, but that's something that John, I know, is working on clearing up so we can have in the future again.
Scott Fernandez wants to know: will GMs have access beforehand, or are we going to get it pushed out of the airlock at the same time of the players? That's a nice way to put that. I like that.
That's fair. we are working really hard to get material to the GMs. Exactly how that's taking shape, we haven't announced yet. But obviously, the GMs are going to need to have some idea on how the rules work before they get there, especially because we have games that launch the second the rule book is released. So I'm sure there will be something. We're just not saying what that is just yet.
And here's a question for the third party guys. Mm-hmm. When can we actually start? I assume we can start releasing stuff the day of Gen Con when you guys release your stuff.
That is my understanding. Don't take me to the bank on that. That would probably be a better question for either like Mike Kenway in licensing or like Rick from the web store. They know that side, the OGL side, a bit more than I do. But my understanding is I know for a fact there are people who plan on releasing stuff for Starfinder at Gen Con. So.
Oh yeah, I mean that. Like I said, I knew that was going to not be an issue. I mean, look. Like I said, it's funny because, being in this for so long and so many people, it's like, oh, I know what that guy's going to make. I know what that guy's going to make. I know what that guy's going to make. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's that kind of small, large field.
Oh, yeah.
We all know each other, and it's like, oh, you're doing this cool? Well, let me see this. Oh, this is cool. Can I grab this piece? I think the OGL has made it so that it's more than just getting access to cool things. I think if people are pushing it in different directions and using it for different ways. My favorite person I always talk about, and I've kissed his butt many times because he's that good. Clinton Boomer always comes up with something that you're like, damn it, Clinton, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, Clinton and I have been friends for years. We hung out actually just in September. We were at a convention together, and him and I shared a room. So yeah, he does great work. I mean, there's so many people in the third party industry who are just gonna do great work with this. And yeah, I think it's gonna really come out the gates at Gen Con, and then afterwards you're gonna see people just bringing out some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I know for myself, I've thought about stripping out the fantasy part and saying, okay, can I do crime with it? Because you've got guns, and that's always been a big issue. So I'm like, well, you've got guns, you're halfway there to doing like, well, now that Top Secret's doing its own Kickstarter, but like a Top Secret type of game, near future, techno thrillers. It's, that seems to be, that'll be very easily handled that way.
Yeah, I think it's much like how Pathfinder has been changed. You're going to see companies that are coming and they're just going to tweak this and do different things. So I've been so in the Starfinder vaults right now, though. It's hard for me to think outside that box because I'm trying to take everything that's in this book and basically, make the official organized play for it. So my thoughts of like, oh man, it sure would be cool to have, this whole new rule system. Oh wait, I shouldn't be thinking that right now. I've got to make it work with the book. So.
All right. So the question I know that I've been asking, is there still a Black Rose Museum in Starfinder Society?
One thing that's been really fun is like I mentioned, I've worked with John Compton because he sort of moved up to the organized play lead developer, which means he's sort of over myself on the Starfinder side, Linda on the Pathfinder Society side. But when I came in and we were talking storylines and everything for Starfinder Society, there were kind of two things that I wanted, and luckily both of them John and I really agreed on. But the first one John was immediately on board with, which was we really want to try to limit some of the Easter eggs from Pathfinder Society to Starfinder Society. There will be some, obviously, but it's important to make this its own thing. You want it to be cool. You don't want it to be cool because every scenario there's some little joke that goes back to a Pathfinder event. That's cool to do once in a while, but we really want to start building our own things. Blake Roche Museum is an excellent example. That's something that so many authors have played with. It's been in PFS since the very beginning. Will we see it in space? Probably not. But that being said, when John and I worked together on the outline for the season and stuff, there were some moments where there was audible cackling on the Skype call, followed by, oh man, I really wish I could write that scenario. So there's a lot of exciting opportunity, I think, for building our own stuff.
Here's a question from Scott, of course. Vague threat of invasion by evil/destructive alien race.
I think you'll see a couple of those. I think for those people who were at the PaizoCon banquet, there were some pictures released, but there's this mysterious thing out there called the Aslanti Star Empire. They might fit that bill, and they might not be the only thing that fits that bill.
So that's very vague. I like how you dodged that one. That was very, very like ninja-like. Okay, you get points for that. That's the Swarm, right? Can we play as them? Well, that's an interesting question. Can you play as a Swarm?
Well, you can't necessarily to start play as the Swarm, but the Shirin race is the bug people of Starfinder. They are kind of listed as sort of a breakaway from that organization or that entity, I suppose. So you kind of can in playing the Shirin.
Okay. Ooh, flying my way. All right. So here's a crazy question. Here's something that
I'm ready.
Oh yeah, this is one for me, but this is kind of one of those. I'm curious. I know some other people have asked me about this. Do you think it's possible, or will ever happen, that Pathfinder, or even Starfinder, would support third-party publishers producing products for them, like adventures? WotC's done that. WotC's like farmed out that kind of stuff to third-party guys. Let's put it together, and boom, you get both our logos on it. It goes on, ta-da.
I think I can't really speak for the company as far as what sort of arrangements would go into that. And I think you touched on it a bit earlier, that the industry is so small that generally speaking, when we hear someone who does good work for a third party company, we're snatching that person to do work for us, and it's sort of it goes around in circles in a lot of ways. I think what you're going to see more of is using that OGL, and I know even in Pathfinder Society, they've used the OGL to great effect to reference third party like monsters, especially monsters. I know there's at least one Pathfinder Society scenario that comes to mind that used some of Kobold Press's content in a scenario, and I think as more authors realize that that's acceptable and won't cause a headache, you might see more things like that. As far as authorizing content, I mean, right now, just with the release schedule that Paizo has, it's hard enough to sort of sanction everything for the plethora of books that get released. Adding third party into that, I think, just is almost requires someone to be hired just to sort of figure out what's going to work in our game, what's not going to work. But I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see more movement in the area of like, hey, this third party has a cool monster and let's use that, or maybe there's a cool piece of equipment that we might want to use, and we might see that again, going back to how that works with the OGL and whatnot. I don't know all the intricacies of how that would work for like throwing it on like a Pathfinder or Starfinder Society scenario, but I certainly think it would be really cool to do some work in that direction, but probably not like whole books.
But like maybe small pieces, maybe even trying them online, seeing if the people like them, and going that route.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and again, I think taking bits and pieces is the way to go to start. Monster here, an item there, spreading that credit around, that I think is a good way. I know, what was it? It was Dragon's Demand, the one of the first bigger modules that Paizo did when they went to the bigger format for modules, that used some Dreamscarred Press stuff. So there is potential there, and I know with Starfinder having kind of a smaller release, that sure as well that might be worth pulling from.
Like I said, I know even from being a small publisher, I know if there's enough advancement on stuff, you can put stuff out on a regular basis. I know Legendary Games does that on a regular basis. They're very much on that weekly schedule. I've gotten myself off that treadmill. I just thought that was just too much to do every week, and I've got a life and I want to do other things. But I know a lot of companies are doing that. They're going back to the very quick schedules, and doing a lot of different things, and branching out in other different ways too. To me, it seems like there's so much creative stuff going on right now. It's a great time to be a developer or be a creative person, so you can see all the cool stuff coming out and stuff you can grab this piece from and that piece from, and this connects together like this. I never thought about it like this, and you'll see a lot of just cool things. And I kind of see Starfinder kind of as that.
And I think you will see that. It's because it's a new thing. People are just going to digest that content right away, and they're going to be like, "Oh, but what about this, this, and this that maybe they didn't have room for in the rule book?" And yeah, and then it's not like Pathfinder's going to stop. I mean, it's funny because I'm really excited about Starfinder. My name is in the book. That's still a crazy thing to me that my name will be in that OGL from now until however long. But then there's still all this Pathfinder stuff coming out. I know we have like the Runes of Aslant adventure path that is kind of, I won't say competing with Starfinder, but that's going to be coming out around the same time as Starfinder launches. And I know Adam talked about that probably on the interview you did with him. Yes. But I worked with Adam on that adventure path. I wrote number 6, and there's so much stuff in there that Pathfinder fans are going to love and want to consume because it's all of these mysteries that are getting answered.
Do you think there's going to be, well, I guess either on both sides, there's going to be more, the content you develop now is going to be more specifically for organized play, or are you going to still do a little bit like, 80% organized play, 20% just home play? It can't all be just organized play.
Oh, no. I think with that, like the more you can sanction for organized play, the better. Just because, hey, some players are only playing in organized play and don't play in home campaigns. And I know for a fact, John and I will see that on the forums where people will be upset that things are not allowed in organized play because they just don't fit in organized play. They don't fit for a thematic reason, for a rule reason, whatever. But they'd be perfectly fine in a home campaign. I think it's, the more things you can allow in org play, the better. And I think Starfinder, because there's been some refinement of the rules, and there's a blog post today from Rob McCreary that talks about some of the rules changes. Because of that refinement, we aren't having to remove entire swaths of the rules and say, oh no, can't do this. I'm working on the guide. We're coming up on sort of the tail end of that right now for Starfinder Society. And there have been very few things that from my past I've really had to go, oh no, we can't allow this. So I think you might see that some of the design philosophy has changed, where there's still going to be tons of cool stuff for home games, but there's going to be a little bit more like mechanical soundness that'll work between both of them, home games and OP.
All right. So, and I assume that you guys will probably be looking at all kinds of monsters from all over to make future versions of. Okay, like let's go through my personal list. Is there going to be a weeping angel?
I see. My problem is, again, I haven't worked on the Alien Archive. That's like the bad question to ask me.
But you know someone brought that up. Someone brought it up.
And again, being a horror fan like I am, that type of stuff is, if there isn't, there will be, I am sure.
Oh yeah, oh my God, I tell people I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but that fundamentally destroys everything. I think it's really because Doctor Who did a whole swath of that I call perception-based monsters, like them, the Silence, Prisoner Zero. It's like you couldn't understand who they are till you actually look at them and really see, and it's like that throws me off as a person and just as a character. I'm like, that's scary as all piss. I see something, I turn away, I forget I see it. It's like, how horrible is that? That's just, oh my God.
Well, and it's a lot of like kind of like primal fears that gets such a good reaction from players too. So,
oh, see, that got me all terrified. And no, Mr. Fernandez, it is not a space gargoyle. There is a difference. A gargoyle is safe. A gargoyle doesn't move as quickly, and when I turn away, it just attacks me. That's something else. That goddamn weeping angel. I always go back to that. It's like that's like the most disturbing thing I've seen out of Doctor Who in my life. I mean, Daleks never scared me. Cybermen never, but that weeping angel terrifies me.
Having seen a few of the monsters, especially like from First Contact and some of the Alien Archive ideas, there's certainly a lot to be horrified about in space. And I mean, I would be remiss if for organized play we didn't have at least one really horror-themed scenario.
Well, of course, but you want to send your players off screaming and crying. So when they're done saying, "Oh my God, I hate what you've done. I want to play again right now."
Yeah.
Because that's really, I mean, really, that's what we're doing. We're just trying to get people hooked, like on crack. Just take your first hit, get you hooked. You love it. It's fun. Oh my God. And then you cry and you're like, oh my God. But it feels good for us.
Well, the first book is free on Free RPG Day, so just go pick that up,
First taste is always free. Now you're hooked for life and you're a crack addict.
Then come to Gen Con and buy everything.
In space, people can hear you scream. You just got to scream really high pitched. See, that's what Scott said, Oh, they can see everyone's a jokester on this thing. Everyone's trying to be a jokester. All right. So is there some so let's hear some secrets. Let's hear some writing secrets to at least get you to move to the front of the line for things you can do as a freelance. Because I'm sure you've gotten stopped, mauled, and pitched by everybody. I got a great idea. It's about a monkey and a giraffe. And you're just like, please stop. Just stop.
Well, that would be one of my suggestions. In a lot of cases, for me, the best pitch is no pitch. The best pitch is that you approach me and say that you're interested in writing for the product line, that you're willing to pitch your own stuff, that you're willing to write whatever we give you to spec. Trying to ambush me with your great idea, that is actually the worst time to get me to like your great idea, especially at a convention. I way more receptive, and you'll get more with pretty much any developer, I would think. If you approach them, say you're interested in writing, maybe give some credentials and some background, and then here's my contact information. Please reach out to me. And I think that's important. And in a lot of cases, it's professionalism. You have to treat this like a job. For me, the year before I got hired at Paizo, it was my job full time. I was doing freelance. Just that was my job. And the more you treat it like a job, the more that people you work with will respect you for it. The second most important piece of feedback, and this is probably more important than the first, is get your stuff in on time. And always be sure to communicate with the person that your developer or whoever it is you're submitting your work to. Because I have been late. I have had to send emails begging for an extra week or two. But even in those cases, it shouldn't be I'm begging for an extra week because I haven't written anything and I'm going to write this whole 20,000 word project in a week. No, you should be trying to keep to some kind of timetable. And really, the most professional thing you can do in this industry is hitting those deadlines and proving that I can submit something that you can then take the rest of the way from the development standpoint.
And as a developer or people who are interested to pitch ideas to you, what don't you want to see from people? Because I'm sure you're like, I've already seen that a million times. Don't pitch that to me. Don't pitch me that.
Well, in a lot of respects, like we can't even really accept pitches because, and this is something that comes up a lot online. Like people will email us their great idea, and the problem is if we say what happens is someone pitches me this great saga epic, and I read it and I go, no, it's not really going to work for me for whatever reason.
Right.
But then someone else in the office, their own spin on that idea, and that completely two different streams of thought. This person has done it entirely separate because a lot of ideas in like the gaming industry, we all play the same video games. We're generally getting the same ideas, or at least same media filter. So someone else in the company does it. Well, then that person who emailed their pitch to me gets angry because the company has stolen their idea, which is not the case. So in a lot of cases when those pitches come in, we immediately send back a reply saying, I can't even read this. When it's okay to pitch is when the developer asks you to, at least in terms of how Paizo works. I know with third party, it's way different. I pitch crazy ideas to people all the time in the third party sphere. Just being like, I have this idea, like I'll work with, like Jason from Legendary, and I'll shoot him an email saying, hey, I'm going to do this crazy wild idea. And I'll be like, sweet. And then I'll hear nothing from Jason, and I love the man. And then 3 weeks later, he'll email me back and be like, hey, the art's ordered. And I'm like, you never even told me I should write this thing.
Have you worked for third party? Because my God, that sounds so third party.
Yeah. So I mean that is the like the pitching situation. I would not I would not necessarily want to see stuff pitched to me from someone unless I've asked for it. And even on the Paizo side, when we ask for someone to pitch us something, we're usually giving them some guidelines. It is very rare in the company that you will just kind of have a blind pitch to people from our end. Where that comes into play more is we've sent you an outline that we want you to write with, and now please send us an expanded outline that throws in your flair into it. Okay. And one other little side thing that I think is important to touch on, just because we were talking about important freelancer things. When I talk about being professional, that applies to a lot of mediums, especially online. In a lot of cases, we've talked about it a lot tonight, but this is a small industry. Word gets around. If something happens with a product and maybe something you've done has been changed in a way that you don't like it, or maybe there's fans who are not liking a product that you've done, the instinctive reaction is to kind of go on the defensive and try to engage in arguments. You have to be really careful with that, especially in situations where it puts your developer in an awkward spot. And those type of things certainly get remembered and get kind of shared about, where product that developer and a freelancer worked on together, and suddenly the freelancer might say something about the design process that they didn't agree with. It puts the developer in an odd position. The more you can avoid that, I think, for both parties. And I know with social media being more and more of a big thing, it's really hard to do that.
Like I said, I've stepped on people's toes. I've done it on purpose sometimes, and sometimes it's totally accidental. The ones that were on purpose were a little more funny. But like I said, I'll tell you, I don't think people know this. I don't think most people know this. I got an argument. This is good Lord, it must have been more than a year ago, about you. I was talking about, I said, I'm looking for some freelance writers, and somebody brought up your name. And I said, look, I'm looking for really good guys. I'm looking for high level guys. I'd like to, Quentin. I mean, I use Clinton's name. I use Owen. And some people were like, oh no, dude, I can't do like that. I'm like, well, then I'll never work with you. But you gotta at least have the confidence saying, yeah, I can do that, even though you can't. You go out there. If you strike out, I'm okay. It's like I'm a third party guy. I'm okay with that. And someone mentioned your name, and I said, I don't know anyone named Thurston Hillman. And the guy responded back, well, then how good could you be? And I'm like, son of a, who is this guy? So then, of course, I started, let me look around. Let me find out about this guy. And then I kept seeing you pop up in lots of different places. I'm like, oh, okay, he must be a good guy. He knows all the people I know, and they say nice things about him, so he must be okay. And that's always been my theory on how I decide if someone's okay. But I love that because, once again, look, there are people doing this stuff every day. There's new people coming, and you can offend people by accident.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You have to be careful with it. It's one of those situations in the community now where, because stuff like that spreads, and especially as we get more and more new generations of freelancers coming in, a lot of these new God, it makes me feel so old. A lot of these newer freelancers, they're forming their own groups, and their own support circles from come into the industry or who they associate with. So it's entirely possible that there's tons of social circles out there in the freelancer world that I have no idea about, and that is certainly tough, and that's why you want to really present your most professional foot, because you don't want it to find out that you're sending an open call to a developer, and that developer has a rap sheet on you already from whoever they're dealing with. And we try to do our best to avoid that. I mean, but there are certainly people talk in the industry, and having a bad reputation. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'll have a list of people that I'll be like, okay, so this person wants to write. Okay, let's run them by my my list of people to check to see, hey.
I think it's one of those things and I think I've always said it's the internet, and there's no context. Because 90% of the people you think are horrible, you meet them in person at BarCon, and you're like, wow, this guy's really awesome. What the hell? What did I think was so horrible online? And obviously there's no context, and that ruins it for a lot of people. You know?
No, certainly, yeah. And again, I think there are some people though who go the opposite route, and it's like, oh, yeah, associating with you that there are some red flags. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
And again, that comes down to those situations of like if I have an emergency turnover that I have to work on, who is it going to get assigned to? Is it going to get assigned to the person that, oh, there's some bad rap on this person, I haven't had a chance to test them, probably not going to use them. I'm a bit more lenient when it comes to, oh, I've got like 6 months before this needs to be done. Sweet, I can try out new people.
That's a fair assessment. All right, it's been an hour. I know I said it would be an hour. I don't know if I can keep you any longer. Are you busy? You got to go.
I could probably stick for a little bit longer.
All right, so this is it. I'm
pressing questions.
If anybody's got some questions, now's the time to ask them. Don't be sitting on your thing going, I should have said this, because you're gonna regret it later. You're gonna regret it. Especially
true.
When you talk about Starfinder. I mean, look, I just want to make Mecha. That's all I want to make is Mecha. Is there a book for me? Are you gonna have something for me? You're gonna make me feel good. I mean, it doesn't.
I think people are going to be really happy with the armor section of the Starfinder Core rulebook.
I look. Just because I want to do Robotech doesn't make me a bad person. That's all I'm saying. I just a couple Veritechs, some Invid stuff. I mean, I just want even a Cyclone bike, which is still the greatest armor ever. I don't care what anyone says. That's a brilliant idea. I just want to do that. All right, let's see. What are you most excited about with Starfinder Society? Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh gosh, what am I most excited about? I think it's the idea that between myself, John Compton, Linda Zayas Palmer, and Tanya Woldridge, I'm sort of the greenest person when it comes to actually playing organized play. I don't tend to play organized play a lot. I tend to run home games a lot more than I run organized play. People often give me guff on the boards because I have 1 star to my forum title. But I think that our team has worked together to create something that isn't as shackled as say PFS has been with 9+ years of ongoing campaign and ongoing rules. We're really building something new with some options and some changes to just how organized play works that I think people are going to see them and go, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Let's see. Scott Fernandez says, I'll get my first star this Gen Con. You guys, if you're making organized play stuff, you should have at least 3 stars. That's all I'm saying.
If it's any consolation, I think most of my 1 star that I have is from overseeing specials. So, like, not even GMing. I was the guy behind the mic who was.
See, and 90%. See, Scott says 90% GMs at home. When will we have Shaq's House of Pain? Why are you talking
Shaq's House of Pain?
Everybody wants stuff.
Shaq's House of Pain is an ongoing painful project that I one day hope never sees the light of day because players will punch me for it.
Why is it okay? I don't know what it is. Let's
okay.
Hear.
So there's a blog post on Paizo.com, but this goes back to a PaizoCon many years ago. Actually, my first time really meeting John Compton, who's now my boss. I had written the interactive for PFS that year, the Siege of the Diamond City, which was basically like a big battle interactive.
I know that.
And John and I we ran the kind of the demo version of it at PaizoCon, and the idea was we'd run it at PaizoCon, get all the kinks worked out of it for Gen Con. And so we ran it at PaizoCon, and after the event, because the event ends at like midnight, John and I are in the bar until about 6 a.m, which is impressive because John Compton doesn't drink. Now I do, but John just feeds off of I don't know, drunk people's energy and gets drunk without being drunk. So we were up till about 6 a.m talking about this, and out of this came this random idea called Shaq's House of Pain, which was just the most punishing dungeon that had ever been written. Just like it was going to be the worst player experience. But it's kind of one of those ideas you're joking with a friend, and you just kind of like build off of it. Like, oh man, you'll enter the second room, and it's going to have like an odorless, colorless gas that destroys 1d3 certs per round, or like. And so,
wow,
that was room 2. So this was a joke.
Wow.
People were coming up to us at the bar and like joining in on the fun. Like you could, and I if my voice were not still convention voice, there would be this like falsetto "Shax's House of Pain" sort of thing that we would shout out. But okay, so it was a joke. Whatever, it was super fun. Then like, gosh, I don't think it was that year. I think it was the following year. On April Fool's, John sends me an actual outline for this book.
No.
Like a proper, well-documented outline for Shax's House of Pain. Which like includes encounters, includes how it begins. But like it's all the small details in it that made it shine. Like the text was due like a year before he sent me the outline, and like just all of this stuff that made it like really into an April Fool's joke. It's a old archived blog post on paizo.com. We shared it, I think, the following April. But it was one of those jokes that the community has latched onto and keeps asking me about when this scenario is going to be written.
I have found it. I have found the link. I'm going to put it up.
Yes.
Yes, it should go up. Let's see if I can do this one right. Copy fingers, really. Let me see if you guys can see this, because I think it's important. I think that people should see. Of course not.
Oh yeah, there it is.
This is something you should see, because even I'm looking at it going, what?
Oh yeah. That was also the time Mark Moreland got his just got his not canon stamp, which he started applying vigorously to this outline.
Jesus. Well, it doesn't have to be canon. It could just be something fun.
Well, and it's one of those things that started as a joke, and now every convention I go to, players are like, so when's it going to be done, Hillman? When's it going to be done? The worst part is I have like a half-completed map for it and text for it.
You know what you need to do, of course. This should be your Patreon. This should be your Patreon.
Oh.
And let people say, look, you want it? You're going to be paying for it, every cent of this.
Can't do that. Can't be making money off Paizo's IP. Some kind of
like I said,
OGL thing.
Give away for free.
Oh. No. I've learned giving my writing away for free now is over. I can't do it anymore.
You don't want to get paid in exposure? Everybody
No. I have a full-time development job now, and I still freelance, and I think my girlfriend likes seeing me, so I don't know.
You're getting all soft. I'm sorry. You got Owen doing like 12 jobs, It's like, you're only doing 2. You're sounding soft. I mean,
yeah. Well, and then I think of my workload, and I might want to strangle you just a little bit, Lewis.
I'm just saying, don't ever think that you can't take another job. Because I mean, look, you got 4 gigs going. You're on fire. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I mean, until you start dropping one. If you drop one and something happens,
that goes back to that previous point I said. I'm writing an AP right now, and
I mean, look, you just because you're doing good legacy, you're doing Starfinder Society, and you're probably writing some other stuff, and you got your own personal stuff to do. Look, that's only 3 jobs.
Yeah.
3, and a girlfriend. Come on, that's like I'll say 4 1/4. Look,
I could take another 8. No.
Someone's gonna have to write this. It's not gonna be me, but someone's gonna have to write this.
It'll happen. I mean, just once the freelance slows down, hopefully. I don't know.
First of all, Ice Climber Owen is a fair standard for everyone. He's the one I put every standard against. Can you do as much work as Owen? Then you're off. You got a job for me. You got a job for life, kid. And we won't pay you an exposure. That stuff kills you.
I'll take it as a compliment that anytime Owen can't finish something, he'll usually ping me and be like, "Hey, buddy."
You know the signs? Hey, I was just thinking.
I've had enough of those awkward private messages of like, "Hey, Thirsty, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, you haven't messaged me in a few months. I see where this is going."
But as long as we all know, and it's all above board, there's no surprises.
Mm-hmm.
So we should all.
No, and hey, as long as I'm getting money, that's.
Look here, you just got to get a pimp
Gotta
hat.
afford that Warhammer somehow.
They that pimp hat, throw that money out like that because that's what's happening to gamers.
No. It goes all to the person behind the Games Workshop till, and here you go. And
come on in.
For you. Pretty much.
Jesus. All right. Let me let you go. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Right. No worries. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm sure we're gonna have some more questions after Gen Con because then people are gonna start complaining. And that's the best time. Oh my God, the complaints. Oh, the complaints. Why does this do this? Why is that? That's what you want to hear.
I've had 8 years of PFS scenario reviews. I'm pretty sure I can handle a lot of this stuff now.
Congratulations, you are now a professional game designer. Willing to get abused by your fans. That's all it really takes. That's all. Yeah. So
they're my people now.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was quite a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoyed it. Of course, we'll be back on Monday. Yeah, I'll be back on Monday if I'm not drinking over this weekend if something crazy happens. But we'll be back on Monday with a new show. Once again, we'd like to thank Mr. Hillman for coming on our show, and we'll hope that he'll be coming back in the future to talk some more fun stuff about because I'm going to be asking about Mecha till I see a book. That's all. And once I see a book, I might feel better.
People are really going to like that armor section. It's going to be a great section of that core rule book.
Voltron. It's large power armor. I don't care what anybody says. It's not a ship.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for having me, Lewis.
No problem. Thank you so much. Everybody, we'll talk to you all later. And as always, have a good weekend. Tell your parents that you love them. Give your kids a kiss. Tell them that you love them. They're important. That's important stuff to do. I will talk to you all on Monday. Bye.